Hello, my friends. This is the Mason Bee Hive that I have in my greenhouse. I'm going to construct my own version of the same hive using 3-inch PVC pipe. I'm cutting a number of these sections to 6 inches in length. I plan to hang these hives that I'm building throughout my farm on the blueberry bushes and around the wooded area, the dam where the bees are located, and hopefully to collect beehives through the summer. The mason bee is a solitary bee that doesn't live in a hive. The bees will lay its eggs in hollow tubes, hollow reeds, holes that woodpeckers had drilled, or these tubes that will be provided for them. I'm using bamboo stakes that I found at Walmart. They're about $4 a bundle. They're various sizes, but there's about 800 different type of mason bees, and they may all have different size holes that they prefer. Now I'm using a bandsaw to cut these bamboo sticks. My chop saw would be a dangerous tool to be using. The bandsaw doesn't have a tendency to kick back or to grab the piece and spin it. The bandsaw, having its downward cutting action, makes it a lot safer. Don't ever risk grabbing pieces that are close to the blade. Use a push stick to clear the work objects away from the blade before you grab them. Here I'm using the stack that I'm cutting to push this cut pieces away. You can see I left the zip tie on the bundles to help hold the bundles together. It gives an aid in holding that stack rather than having loose pieces for me to try to keep together by hand. You can see I have a stop set to gauge the length of all the cuts. I used a piece of 2x4 clamped to the bandsaw table with a quick grip clamp. The gauge block is set such that as the pieces are being cut off, the end of the block is about at the edge of the blade, so that as the sticks fall loose, it has a clearance when it's being cut. When you get to the end of the stack, it's no longer safe to hold them as a bundle. So here I'm cutting every stick individually. The nodes on the bamboo are terminal points in the tube. I could be selecting the open end so that it's a completely hollow straw, but I don't think that's a necessary thing. The bees can build their hive or their nest from either end, and if it was a natural occurrence in nature, there would be a blockage at the end of every hole anyway. So I'm providing probably what nature would have been providing. A word of caution: don't work this fast around power tools. After all the sticks are cut, next thing you have to do is clean all the pith out of the bamboo. Where there's a node, you're going to have to push this rod from both ends so that you can open up the port for each side. The ones that don't have the node, it's real easy, push all the way through. The bamboo that has the larger diameter hole, there's usually no pith in there to worry about. You can see that as I'm cleaning each tube, I'm dropping it into the 6-inch piece of PVC pipe. The sticks are cut at 5 inches, so there's an inch difference. When I'm all finished, I'm going to adjust the stack inside that 6-inch PVC pipe so that there's a 1/2 inch overhang on each side. It'll help keep some of the weather off of the ends of the sticks. What makes the Mason bee so desirable, the reason I want to have them in my greenhouse, is they are exceptionally good pollinators. They are about 100 times better as a pollinator than a honeybee. The Mason bee rarely ever stings. The male Mason bee does not have a stinger, and the female will only sting if it's pinned or being pinched. As a pollinator, 2 female mason bees can pollinate a mature apple tree by themselves. In my greenhouse, I have pepper plants that the peppers were not getting very large and they looked a little deformed. Upon opening these peppers up, I found that there were no seeds whatsoever in any of the peppers, which is telling me that they didn't get pollinated. With the introduction of these mason bees, I'm hoping that they're in there doing their job. The package that I have is a commercial package that I brought in, and they are hatching, and I'm seeing mason bees now working in the greenhouse. Hopefully this will remedy my problem. When these beehives are finished, I'm going to spread them out around the farm in areas where I think bees are working. The bees, what they do, since they're a solitary bee, they don't live in a hive. They go and lay their eggs in these tubes, and as they lay an egg, they make a chamber for each one of the eggs. These will stay dormant. These hives are going to be left out through the whole summer and fall and picked up before winter and moved into the greenhouse. Then in the spring, those eggs should be hatching, and I'll have them in the greenhouse, and that's where they'll be coming out to do their job. You'll be able to tell that the tubes have been used when you see the ends of the tubes are covered or plugged with a mud cap. If you saw the tubes in the beginning of this video with the commercial tubes, you'll see that a lot of the tubes still have mud caps on them. Some have been already opened up, and that's where the bees have hatched and came out. The mason bee, being such a small bee, is often mistaken for a fly or a stinging insect, and they're not welcome, but that's because of misunderstanding. I think if people knew more about them and knew what they would do, they would be welcomed a lot more. Here I have just about all the tubes that I need for the first beehive, and I'm going to force the last couple in and have them being held with pressure fit. As you get to the very last few tubes, it's a good advantage to have these very narrow, skinny ones, because the gaps that's left are very small, and this is what I'm using to cause the wedge fitting. Most of these narrow tubes are solid with pith. When they get larger diameter, the pith is no longer. It's a real thin film on the inside and not pithy. I'm testing the whole set to see that how tight it exactly is, and I want it to be very tight, that they have to almost be driven together, and that's exactly what I'm doing now, driving the last few in, and then it's a solid block in there. Right now what I'm trying to do is shift the entire stack to about a ½ inch in, so there's that ½ inch overhang on each end of the tube. There it is. I'm pretty satisfied with the way they went in. When you hang these tubes, you want to hang them horizontally, or have them placed horizontally. So I'm going to drill a hole in both ends and connect a zip tie on each end to make a loop. That loop now can be used to either suspend a branch through it, or use some cordage to tie into the loops and tie it onto something and adjust it so that it will sit horizontally. Both loops are connected, and here this is how it would hang on a branch. Little demo. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching, my friends. Bye-bye.